always good to study with someone. And I asked him, but who would you recommend? And he said, look, there are two famous cello schools, Russian and French. Since you tried Russian, it makes sense to try French. And I asked, but who? He said, yeah, that's difficult, because you see, Marshall is dead too late. Fourier doesn't teach. Navarro teaches much too much. Tortelier is genius, but too crazy for you. Gendron, he said, I tell you something. The best French I can recommend is Piatigorsky. He was a Russian Jew living in California. His main French connection, of course, was his wonderful wife, she lived until 120 at least. And so I took this advice very seriously, of course, like I took everything what Mr. Horch said very seriously. Which, in a way, probably was, as I realized later, a mistake in the sense that he was hoping that I would react that after Rostropovich, there's nobody. I came to Israel, played for Zubin Mehta, who was, of course, a great friend of Piatigorsky, and he gave me the same advice. He told me, look, now you have time, he's not young, he's not very healthy, go, you will never regret. I never did. Even though it was against advice of Isaac Stern to go to New York, I went to the West Coast. I didn't even need visa to do this. Just kidding, sorry. And it was only, I was probably the shortest of all present, definitely students of Piatigorsky, because I spent only altogether 4 months. But those 4 months were, I always say, was the best time of my life, and I really mean it, which again didn't endear Rostropovich. But I always clarify that I don't imply that Piatigorsky was a better teacher than Rostropovich. It would be as serious to say that Mozart was a better composer than Bach. I was a better student. I was older, much more mature. It was the beginning of my new life. I was full of positive energy. And it was unfortunately very much the end of his life. And he felt that he was very ill. He told me this the day I was leaving. But in addition to this, the main reason why it was so special, not only for me, but I probably can say for him as well, because he loved speaking Russian. He spoke beautiful Russian, completely different type of language we speak nowadays. And since my English, as you probably remember, was limited to few 4-letter words or something like this, not much more than 4 letters. So we always communicated in Russian, and it was for him very special, I felt, chance to share his incredible life experience, which probably, as some people think, was even magnified by his phenomenal imagination, with someone who was very anxious to absorb it like dried out sponge, you know. So it was incredibly intense, and in any case, I always say that I'm the luckiest cellist in the world. Anybody can claim it, it's very subjective, but the fact that I managed to study with both Rostropovich and Piatigorsky, but as well, but with both of them I had a very close and very special relationship. At least that's how I felt. Rostropovich became like second father to me in my first life, because I started studying with him a few months after my real father passed away, at a very early age. And then it was probably partly because Rostropovich, one of his very few unfulfilled ambitions in life was to have a son. He had 2 daughters, but never had a son. And he told me last time I saw him, you know, you were like a son to me. But anyway, he was really like second father to me at the time. But then when I came to the West and started my second new life, as I always call it, Piatigorsky became like second father to me in my second life. And so I feel extremely lucky. But I know that any of us would say the same, and that was his incredible quality and genius, that he could make everyone feel like the most important I'm sure that you all felt the same way about him being like other figure. Only I'm speaking too long, so.
My story is, I'll make it shorter. I started rather late, and I remember it. Those of you who are older, you might remember the name Vinny Kudlock. He was a major luthier in Los Angeles, and I had been playing a chamber music concert, and he took a liking to me, and he happened to come to the concert. After the concert, he came up to me. He said, well, if Piatigorsky is any friend of mine, you're his next student. And he made it possible for me to audition, and my life changed, of course, after that. I knew he was the right teacher for me for lots of instinctual ways, but after we studied with him, he used to quote his father's advice to him, which was, there are three kinds of people you meet in the world. Those who don't care about you, those that push you down, and those that pull you up. From the first category, just ignore them. The second category, run as far away from you as you can from those who push you down. And those that lift you up, keep on holding on to them forever. But that was an obvious lesson for me early on, that Piatigorsky was that special quality who lifted me up, because I had an awful lot of the pushing down variety of humanity around me. So I needed this other side, and it came to me in spades, and I'm forever grateful. You know, we got a lot of questions here. There's too much. Please, let's just jump into anything that you want to talk about this. What the quality.
Only thing I'll respond to what you said about the three types. I knew that story from him as well. But he also said, and if you have me for a friend, it's very hard to lose me.
Yeah.
And if you do something bad, said somebody actually was very nasty to him at one point, and he said, he didn't get angry with that person. He said, I'm very worried for you, because if you can do something bad to me and I won't do anything, if you do something bad to somebody else, they will get back at you. That was his way of dealing with something that was not nice toward him.
Which is the most important lesson? What was the greatest lesson?
Actually, I can answer two questions in one with that. One of your other questions is what value in his philosophy of playing would he? I don't have the list right there. Whether he said that he would find missing or wanting, and I find two. One of which is very connected to an important lesson for me. One thing which I think we all saw in that movie is the importance of tone in cello playing, at a certain kind of tone, because cello playing evolves, but I think that there's a very special quality of vibrato that you hear in Piatigorsky's playing, which I think a lot of cello playing is evolving away from, and I would say that is one value that he would, the change in which he would lament. And the other one that relates to a lesson is that I think that there is now a great deal of concern with playing correctly. And I remember that when I was playing Boccherini G major concerto, and I played through the first movement trying to be very stylistically correct, and I finished, and he said, "Do you like this piece?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "It doesn't sound like it." And that was a very important lesson. Also, I can contrast to that a similar case in the Heifetz class, just showing how Mr. Heifetz would sometimes communicate in things that were rather like Zen koans, that someone played through a piece, and Mr. Heifetz said, "Do you like this piece?" "It doesn't like you." Which is a little bit more difficult to figure out what to do with that statement. Yet Brisson's statement to me, I learned an instant lesson.
I think there's so many analogies that he made during his teaching, because he seemed to teach mostly by analogy and a wide spectrum. One of the very telling ones was, there is no such thing as a shy sonata or a humble concerto, which is absolutely true. And it's the sort of thing that's so easy to pass on to your own students. There are very few places in music where you can be those way. And I think that one of the wonderful moments, the way he would bring people out for themselves, the occasion when somebody came and couldn't express anything on the instrument, and he said, go away and practice two things, and come back, and this is what I want to hear. I love you, and I hate you. And this poor student had big trouble, came back after a week of practicing and said, I love you, I hate you, like that. Terrible, come back, practice back. Until the poor student yelled at him and said, I love you, I hate you. Okay, now you can play the cello.
You know, I was so incredibly influenced by Rostropovich since childhood. I was kind of almost mesmerized, hypnotized, whatever, idolizing him to the extent when I was talking about Rostropovich, my neck hurt. So I was incredibly nervous going to Piatigorsky because I was afraid if he would try to kind of turn in a different direction, I just wouldn't be able to do this because I like a blood transfusion from Rostropovich. But what was so amazing that I found people very often ask how different they were. Of course, they were incredibly different because as personalities, they had very different, very unique personalities. But what struck me is the similarity of approach, general approach to teaching and music making, and they both had admiration for each other, I'm sure, even though it was naturally a rather complex relationship, obviously. But I remember, I mean, meeting Piatigorsky first time was when he was in the jury of Tchaikovsky competition where we were together with me and Larry in 1966. And he was absolutely legendary figure in Russia. And so when I finally in the class of Piatigorsky heard certain things which literally I heard from Rostropovich almost word to word. I couldn't believe it, but obviously Rostropovich picked up from Piatigorsky very quickly quite a few things, and it was amazing how their similar approach to their attitude towards music making and approach to teaching, which had very little to do with cello as such, but music. Cello being just a vehicle to achieve the main goal and not other way around. And before I forget and run out of time, which I did a very long time ago, talking about their complex relationship, I recently, a few years ago, had an interview in the PFS with Russian musicologist Mr. Zolotov, who told me that he interviewed Piatigorsky towards the end of his life, just before, at the end of his life. And he asked him, do you ever forget on stage during the concert? And Piatigorsky said, of course, everybody does. And then Zolotov said, but Rostropovich told me he never forgets. And Piatigorsky said, he always does. He plays Schumann and he forgets it's not Shostakovich. I thought it was, in boxing terms, slightly below the belt, but very elegantly put. And probably inspired by the fact that Shostakovich, as some of you might know and hopefully many don't, asked Shostakovich to reorchestrate Schumann concerto, which is like a nightmare actually. And it was one of the